Hey guys, and welcome back to Boulders and Heretics podcast. I'm your host, Dan, and on today's episode, we're going to try something a little different. We're going to be starting up a new segment called Get to Know, where I'll be bringing people on the show to do a little bit of interview, get to know them a little bit better, and just to see what armies do you play, what do you do for fun outside of Warhammer, and just little things like that, just to get to know people in the community a little bit better. On today's episode, we're going to be starting off with a member of the Boulders and Heretics family. But before we jump into that, I just want to give a big shout out to everybody that took the time to watch our episodes. The first episode is now at 200 views, which, hey, thank you guys very, very much. And the second episode is making its way up. And I also want to remind you guys that this is going to be the last week to jump on the giveaway. So again, jump over to our Facebook, jump over to our Instagram, find the picture of the AdMech Star collecting box, give the picture a like, leave a little comment, and that will enter you in the draw at the end of the month. On next week's episode, I'm going to take all the names from Instagram and Facebook, put them into a random number generator, and I will announce the winner then. So, before we get started, I'm just going to jump over, give a nice shout out to the sponsors, and we'll be right back. So, just a huge thank you to our sponsors. First up, we got the guys down at the Comic Hunter here in Moncton. For you guys, the listeners, they want to do something a little special. So if you jump onto their website, comichunter.net, they're giving you guys 10% off your Games Workshop's orders. For some reason, if you're on their site and there's something there that you don't see that you are looking to pick up, jump on over to their Facebook page, The Comic Hunter Moncton, and they'll be more than happy to get it ordered in for you guys and get you all hooked up. So when your basket's all nice and full with a lot of GW products and you're about to check out, all you guys need to do to get your 10% off is throw in the promo code BH Necrons July, and that's how you're going to get your discount on all of that. And up next, we got the guys down at the Level Up Wargaming, also here in Moncton. It's a local gaming club that where myself and a lot of the guys that are going to be working on this podcast go each week to get our fix of wargaming in. So you can jump over onto their Facebook page, Level Up Wargaming Moncton, New Brunswick, and once on there, you can see what nights people are playing which games, and if you're just looking to get a game on an off day, send a message and somebody will definitely be up for replying to get a game in. So again, huge thank you to those guys, and let's get right back to the episode. Okay guys, so with me today, I have Mr. Keir Edward, part of the Boulders and Heretics podcast. So yeah, let's just start off. So introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and yeah, let's get going.
Hey, Danny, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's Keir here. So I'm actually pretty new to the community that he mentioned earlier. I just moved out here back in October, and before that I was living in Toronto, well, the general Toronto area. And yeah, I mean, moved out here, met up with Level Up Wargaming, started me knowing you guys, and yeah, it's been great so far.
So pretty much like you said, you made your way down here. So as far as like career-wise, what do you do when you're not into the Warhammer community?
When I'm not into the Warhammer,
Not Warhammer, you know,
not
it's a
into
thing.
the Warhammer. Yeah, I'm carpenter by trade. Been doing that for I don't know, at least 12 years now. And yeah, I don't know, just to get into all types of different stuff. I like the finish stuff, and I think it makes sense because it kind of has modeling vibes to it. Like when you really get into the fine trim and the crown, stuff like that, you have the same sort of tenacity, I guess, to like get rid of those mold lines and make sure everything fits nice and all that sort of stuff, and make a nice final good looking finished product. And I think so. I think it makes sense, but I mean, I just end up doing all kinds of different stuff involving carpentry. You know, it's whatever pays the bills at the time.
Nice. Now, if only half the community can get that little motivation to get, you know, the armies painted, myself included.
Yeah, I don't think the new 10-point thing's gonna get them very far.
Oh, but no, that meme that I seen on Facebook is just like that whole dapper looking man when you're winning by 10 points.
Or even worse, 9. You lose by 1 because your stuff's not even painted.
Well, but you know what? Good on it. Like, to be honest, like I said, as long as you can have like based a nice color, even just the slightest little color in the side, as long as it's not just looking at gray plastic, because yeah.
Doesn't take much to bust out a spray can and a dry brush, and you know, I think most tournaments now are getting pretty good about that though. Like like just like having the 3 color minimum.
Yeah, you're
I
definitely seeing a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, practice games is whatever. People want to try out new models, and I totally get not overly investing yourself into painting up this thing if you don't even know if it's going to be good, because it's hard to, I mean, play what you want, right? But like at the same time, sometimes playing what you want is either a cool looking model or the data sheet is just so good you're just like, oh my god, this thing is just gonna wreck. And then you bring it out in that practice game, it just falls flat in its face, and you're like, ugh, I don't
Oh
like the
no,
way
it's
this
true.
thing
There's
looks.
so many times I've caught myself, and like I said, like I'm a player that I want to play the look of cool. Like I don't
Mhm.
want to play anything that's broken. But there's too many times I'm like, oh look at cool. I paint up a nice 10-man unit, and like you said, then when you start getting to tournaments and they don't see the light of day, and you're like, oh man, I could have painted something else, and then sometimes you get a little discouraged with it. But nah, I find like it's rule of cool. You paint what you like, and you just throw it on the table.
Yeah, for sure. I think that starts with the army collecting stages. You know,
Mm.
I think for me personally, I mean, the armies I've always gotten into it. It's always been an aesthetic first. Um, like I started out Eldar. Eldar was the first 40K. Or actually, no, let me take you back. Let me take you way back. I was like 13 years old, and I had just moved to Toronto, so I was in middle school, and I'd moved there from Lindsay, which is like a little small rural town where like everyone knew everyone kind of thing.
Mm.
And so I moved out to Toronto, and I met these the cool kids, and they got me into Games Workshop. We went to the Scarborough Town Center, and I went there for the first time. And I remember the first thing that drew my attention was a Corn Lord on a Juggernaut. It was a 40K model too, metal, which is just like, and the same Berserker kit that's out today. I'm pretty sure was the one that was out then,
Oh,
like
they've never upgraded, but
20
still,
years
it's still such a nice model though. Being pewter and all, it's still just oh.
Yeah. It's just funny they just had a price hike on the Berserkers to like 62.50 Canadian from like I think they were like $45 or something like that, but it's the exact same kit. And all I think when I look at it is just barrel of monkeys. Like it
Oh,
literally looks
their,
like
their their arms are so close
yeah.
together. It's like I'm gonna grab your chainsaw onto that chainsaw, this chainsaw
hmm
onto
hmm
yeah, no, yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
get that one.
They redeemed themselves with Sigmar though. Sigmar is a great place to fetch Zerker conversions from. I end up doing like Reapers and Blood Warriors and just like kind of 40K'ing them up with some chain weapons and stuff, and I feel like they turned out pretty good.
Oh no,
Yeah.
big time. Like, cause I play core myself, and like the Bloodbound demons, everything. Like I play them, and I've been so tempted to convert them myself. But like I said, I played them also as AOS, so it's just that part of me is kind of holding me back, and also the fact that I have 80 old berserkers that are kind of just sitting there looking at me with a sad face, and I'm just like, you're just you will have your time.
You will have your time, yeah. To be honest, I don't know. I have Reavers, I have Blood Warriors. I don't even think you need to do anything. I think you could just put them on a tabletop and say they're Zerkers, and I don't think because the Reavers you can either do the two-handed or you
Hmm.
can do the sword and the axe pretty well, or like sword. Some of them
Yeah.
have like dagger arms or whatever it is, but I mean that's basically the Zerker loadout: a chain axe and a chain sword,
No,
same
it's true.
base size, same model size, corn. So I mean, I don't know what their motivation is to even try and sell berserkers anymore. I don't get it. Just go to Corn, Blood Warriors. They have awesome models. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, starting out. So that was my first sort of dive into 40K. But being like 13 years old, you can't really play Warhammer because
No.
you money, right? Like I think I managed to get a box of corn berserkers, and I don't even think like they didn't have the ranges back then that they do now either. Like I remember seeing recently a space, I believe it was third edition, and I remember seeing a Space Marine list, a 2,000 point Space Marine list, and it was like a dreadnought, 5 Terminators, a captain, and like 10 man Marine squad or something like that. Like it was nothing
Mm.
by today's standards, you
Oh
know?
yeah, today's standards like 2,000 points. You cover half a table almost, depending on the army you're playing.
Yeah, I think Space Wolves had like one box back then. I think you could just get Blood Claws back then or something like that. Anyway, I was just a kid. I had no money. I would go in there every once in a while and just be like, a man can dream. A man can dream indeed. But I always thought it was super cool. I was always like, into art and stuff like that and painting and everything. So, naturally it always had that appeal to me. And the game itself is sweet. Like if you're into video games or anything like that, like you can definitely narrative or competitive, you can definitely get on board with what it's all about.
No, definitely, definitely. And like you said, like especially going to a hobby store, like especially at that age, like you said, obviously it back then it was still expensive. Like especially today, it's even more expensive. And like you were saying, back then you really didn't need the amount of models you would have needed today. So but again, at that age, starting off, 2,000 point games, unless you and a couple of buddies that were only playing like small games for fun, like 1,000 points, 500 points, whatever it was at the time. And you know what? Sometimes the parents would actually go, buy a box or two, kind of get you started. You have fun, you get into it because it can be super, super overwhelming as a new player. Because I know when I first got into it, like I've played miniature games before, I've played card games, but when you're starting to see the amount of stuff on the table with the amount of rules and you almost have to take a step back, being like, what am I getting into? But that's the
Yeah,
thing, though. If you love it, like that's what got me was just the aesthetics of the models. They were just like, especially seeing them painted on the table. You're like, oh man, like if I can have one of these, like the possibilities and.
you could do whatever you want too, which
Mhm.
is the best part. You spent the money on it. No one has a right to tell you you can't paint your corn army like unicorns in all rainbow colors or whatever. Like it's your army, right?
My wife
Doesn't
would love that idea. She might even be able to start playing 40K that way.
that was like homage to Diablo. Diablo has like these anyway, whatever. Um, they have like this one rift. The whole concept of Diablo is like rifts, and
Mm.
they have this one that's like this unicorn level, and it's like literally unicorns are the monsters and little teddy bears. And it's all like it's called whimsical, I think it is. Anyway,
Okay.
so it was anyway. It's just funny because it's such a like demonic game and everything, and then they just have this one random level that pops up every once in a while where it's just like da 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 da
And it's even
rainbows
best
and
because you get murdered and beat down so hard that you're like, I got beat
yeah.
by a colorful rainbow thing.
Three pink
Great.
unicorns stomped my face in. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, I totally I totally get what you're saying as a new player. It's tough because, traditionally speaking, if you want to put it on the same sort of category as like a tabletop game, traditionally speaking, you buy the box and you're in,
Mm.
right? But like that's sort of come and gone, you know. I mean, I think they sort of redeemed themselves with Indomitus and the whole Crusade concept because I do believe you can get right into the narrative stuff now. I think they sort of cycled back to it to address what you just described as like the
Mm.
intimidation of a new player. Like the Indomitus set, I think for each side as a troop, it has some HQ options and a lead. Like they did it right this time, I think.
And that's actually what I'm kind of enjoying about the new Start Collecting boxes because they, like you said, in with the Odomitas, it's a lot of times they try really hard. They'll give you that one HQ choice, they'll give you your troop choice, and then either an elite and heavy or something else to add extra. But they are giving you that very in the words start collecting. They're giving you what you can
Yeah,
essentially paint it, put these on the table. You have a good start. Now you add
yeah.
on from here,
They usually land around like 500 points too, which is like if you and a
give or
buddy
take.
decide you
Yeah.
want to get in, like 110 to 15 bucks
Mm,
ish, you get that. You and a buddy want to start, like you're in. You know what I mean?
exactly.
Kleenex box ruins
Man, I still
and
do that.
yeah, but
FYI, they won't be in the bad reps, I swear to God.
maybe we'll see. We might spiffy one up, but I think the nice part, like even as a more generally I would consider myself more of a competitive player, but even the Crusade stuff and narrative stuff, which has never interested me in the past at all, aside from the campaigns that Level Up has done.
Mm.
Um, Even I'm interested in that stuff, and it's cool to see them, go that direction, sort of release this whole idea that kind of has like a Gloomhaven vibe, like continue going. You get XP like an RPG, sort of like it's cool. It seems
And
cool.
and by the way, they were explaining it too, is apparently like, say for example, you're all in with the Crusade and you really want to narrate the story, and then like say I come along, I just want to have a for fun game. Well, you can still carry on to my game, do your stats, and even though I'm not carrying on with it still adds to it. And
Yeah,
apparently there's supposed to be something that compensates for the player that's not into it to give him like say a little extra, because obviously as you're leveling up, your characters get more and this and that.
right.
So it's kind of just like, okay, well, you're a newbie, you're not playing for fun, but here, have this extra, I don't know, say a relic, or like I'm just saying something top of my head,
Sure.
just to be
Yeah.
like, hey, just to compensate for obviously this guy probably has like 10 games under his belt, he has all these upgrades, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But no, it really emerges you because myself, I'm kind of the opposite. I'm more of a narrative for fun player than I've ever been competitive. I still enjoy competitive. I still enjoy tournaments, but like I have the most fun whenever you make a list and you make a story out of it. Like
Yeah.
myself and a buddy, that's what we did. Is like we've been working on for the last year or two. We each made an 8,000 point list. And within that
Jesus.
8,000 point list, you make sub lists of 500 points, 1,000, 15.
Okay. Yeah,
But when
yeah.
every game is done, depending on if you lost a unit, you roll a d6 on like a one or two. That unit is gone from your main force. And the
Yeah.
idea is you make it to that 10th game, and whatever is left remaining, you have that last battle with either missing troops or if. Uh, I still laugh because in our first game that we were playing, it was my Helldrake versus a librarian, something super cheap just to fill out, and
Okay.
he essentially punched my Helldrake to death, and I caused him
Oh,
0 wounds. So
oh
he gave
man.
him like every upgrade he could from rolling. He rolled like a 6 on like, hey, here's your heroic item because you did so much damage. Oh, it was like, but
Right.
that's the fun. You make a narrative based off of like he gave him a name, he upgraded. Yeah, it was like I thrive for that stuff.
Yeah, I totally get that, dude. I mean, it's nice to just have fun, play what you want.
Mm.
I feel for myself, the narrative stuff. I love when the competitive side and the rules and the way the army function still feels fluffy. You know what I mean? And I feel like Ninth they kind of realize that like they've gotten a little bit away from that. Like for example, the Lookout server.
Mm.
If you just saw Abaddon standing there by himself in war, right? Like,
In all his glory, because it is
like,
glory.
oh yeah, but like, what? But there's a troop coming closer. Like, why are you not shooting at Abaddon? Like,
No, and it's true.
clearly,
It's true.
right? And even the terrain rules. Like, I think we were talking about this last time, but like, if you knew things were in a building, you just light the building up. But
Mm.
if stuff was on the other side, you wouldn't try to shoot through the building at them, right? So like
No.
that sort of stuff is cool, and I respect the narrative play, but I feel like maybe it's just me. It's never really been any like g- gaming circle I've been a part of. People haven't really been super driven by narrative, so I haven't really got that experience. The dude who got me into it really liked just playing for fun, and he
Hmm.
was which was perfect because I hadn't after third, I kind of realized this is out of my financial reach. Um, Even though he only needed like $200 back then, like I'm pretty sure a
Mm.
box Terminators was $35. I feel like I have that in my head that like you could get Terminators for $35. And so anyway, when I got back to it, it was my buddy, and it was kind of funny. He got really into it, and he's kind of like me. I mean, we get into stuff, and he's one of my best friends back home in Toronto. We get into stuff, and we just go head first. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
we got really into at one point, like, well, okay, music. First of all, he is the best guitar player I've ever met in my life. He could hear any riff and play it back to you. You could play it to him once, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the riff is. He can play Master of Puppets with a blindfold on, like
Oh,
the
nice.
entire album through. He went to Carleton and got 96% for his. He had to take. He took geography, but his like second. I don't know what they have. I
Major,
think
I'm
like
guessing, or
whatever it is,
yeah,
right? Like they give him minor and something, but he got 96%.
nice.
And by the end of it, he was giving like the TAs guitar lessons and stuff. But, so we've always kind of been like that together, him and I. And so he got into Warhammer, and he was like super into it. And we lived like 15 minutes away. He's like, "Come on, dude, you just gotta try it, just get into it and everything." So he took me to the Games Workshop in Burlington, and this was like right at the beginning of 8th edition. And we walk in there, and I'm looking at all the stuff, and I'm looking at all the stuff, and I'm like, okay, all right. Like I knew I liked it, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like I knew from way back when it didn't
You've
take me long to
previously
just
dabbled. You've dipped a
yeah.
toe, and you're like, that felt nice.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's like the first time I drank a beer. But anyway, so I actually bought a squad of Rubric Marines, and I think I bought a box of Exalted Sorcerers, and a couple little paints or whatever, like nothing
Yeah,
crazy. It was like 5 paints, just to like a gold and a blue or whatever.
just enough
And
to
I
get
brought
you
it home.
by with tabletop ready. There you go. Like,
Yeah. So I bring it home, and I put it on the dining room table. And my wife looks at me, and she'd been hearing the conversations and stuff like that, right? And I think she had done some prior research to kind of see like what's going on here, right? And then she looks at it and I knew she wasn't impressed. I just knew off the top of my, like right off the get-go, she just was not impressed. So anyway, I was working a lot. I was a foreman for a company at the time, and I was humming and
Okay.
hawing over it. And about 3 or 4 days later, I brought it back and returned it.
Oh no.
So and it, to this day, part of me thinks like maybe I dodged a bullet there, maybe not. But anyway, so I don't regret it. By the way, I love
Yeah.
the hobby. I absolutely love it. But like, there's just I don't know,
It wasn't the right time, right army, right
right.
second. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she was pregnant with our first kid at the time too, and he's coming up on 4 years old.
Okay.
So, and maybe it was at the end of seventh now that I think about it. I wasn't like competitive driven at all at
Mm.
that point, but I was just getting into it, of course. So anyway, so I'm looking. I'm still very interested, but like, it's just a tough pill to swallow. Spending like $160 on like 10 models and some
No,
paint.
it's true.
So,
Yeah.
so that was like the big thing. I was just like, da, da, da. So anyway, I'm watching, and then all of a sudden, this person on Kijiji was selling 20 witches, 5 hellions, 5 scourges, Lilith Hespeраx, an Archon, um, 10 Wraith Guards, 10 Dire Avengers, Eldrad, and a Wraith Lord. It was something like that. It was like a lot, right?
Yeah.
And they wanted $200.
Oh wow.
$200, right? So and so I messaged the guy and everything. And I was like, okay, you've got my interest and everything. And I thought Eldar were cool. Eldar
Mm.
always, they have this cool sort of. As I learned more about them, I realized they're just space hobos, but just don't have a plan and just drift around. Got outslept by Necrons into an extinction almost. Like the lore side of it is not quite what I imagined. They aren't the anyway. So and then the guy's like, you know what? I just really want to get rid of it. I just give me $150. So I was like,
All right.
deal. You know what I mean? And this is much more palpable,
Oh
right?
no, definitely. Like you
Going from
have yourself
pencils
a
and
nice
paints.
starting army right
Yeah,
there. Like,
right. Like I had no paints or anything, but like whatever. And some of it was still in boxes and stuff like that, which is crazy. Like I built the Hellions, I built the Scourges. There was like one anyway, whatever. I got like a sweet deal, and it was like
nice.
1,500 points or something like that. So my buddy's stoked for me. I'm stoked about it and everything. I bring this home to her, and she's still like, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how much was it? Like, because like I'm into this stuff, and she's into like decorating the house and stuff like that. And so like I'm seeing like cool Warhammer models, and she's seeing like I don't know, like new light fixtures for the like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying, right? So,
I
um,
recall a certain conversation that I have had many times
yeah,
before.
I feel like I'm speaking to many of the married fathers out there, but anyway, so but luckily, I mean, she's good to me, and she's just like, okay, if it's a hobby that's going to make you happy, if you're painting and everything like that, and I mean, like, what's the alternative, right? Sitting there and
Mm.
watching TV or something like that, like. I'm the type of person I would have found another hobby that would have cost just as much money. So it's just like, find something
Mm.
that's anyway. So I ended up with this, and yeah, it was cool. That's pretty much how I really like got going with Warhammer.
Nice.
Okay, so
So
I,
your actual introductory of actual playing was eighth edition then.
yeah,
Okay.
and the guy who sold it to me, when I asked him why he was selling it, my buddy was more curious than I was. I didn't even have the sense to even like. I just thought whatever, some guy's selling some English
Mm.
models. Everybody's like, just out of curiosity, right before we leave, why are you selling this stuff? I'm getting more into a melee Tau army. I'm having a lot of fun playing melee Tau. That's what he says to me. And I was like, okay, cool. And my buddy, we get in the car, and my buddy's just like, melee Tau. I was like, I don't know. He's like, melee Tau? I was like, I don't know, man. What? Like, he's like, you don't play melee Tau. I was like, okay, well, whatever. So whatever the guy's reason was,
All right. Well, at the end of the day, you got a sweet deal out of it, and
$150, man. $150. I think I worked out. It was like $500 of models. I mean,
nice.
it wasn't like I had to strip some stuff, and he helped me through all that and
Mm.
everything. Like some models looked at like they'd been painted 3 times, and like
Yeah.
I remember the wraith blades. They had a coat of paint on them. It wasn't anything like, by my standards now, I would say it
Mm.
was like a D effort. And I stripped it, and then I saw a black base coat, and then I stripped that and realized there was another paint coat on it, and
Oh
it was just
God.
just like working through the layers. I don't think I ever really got them like, you know, but whatever. I mean, it got me playing, and my buddy was super stoked about it too. So it was
and,
fun.
and, and like you said, like you had the models, you had them on the table, you got the feel of it, and it kind of gives you that feeling that like, okay, so like I'm playing, I'm understanding the game now. You understand a bit more about the armies, you understand a bit more about the concept. So 150 bucks, like man, that's a steal. Like it still
Hmm.
sounds like a lot of money to the person that doesn't play games or anything at all. But like, yes, in the world of Warhammer, 150 for that amount of points, great. Put
Yeah,
a little bit of elbow grease into it. Like I've had my fair
sure.
share of secondhand stuff, but here's the thing: is like so you didn't waste too much money, and now you're playing, you get used to it, and then like say down the road you want to start investing to another army, you're going to be able to now take the time and really know what you're buying because you've dabbled. Because there's nothing harder than a new person getting into the game where it's like not only like we mentioned earlier being overwhelming, it's like 40K now has what is it 26 factions. Where do you start in the faction? Where do you start and what models do you want? Like even myself, I've been playing this game now probably going on 8 years, like from back in the fantasy days. And I still need to take my time and look at a book being like, okay, what do I need to buy that's going to validate what I'm spending? But there's still times I buy a box and 2 years later it's still sitting on my desk because I bought that wrong unit or something.
Yeah,
Or
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it. I think the biggest scare for new players is like, you always have someone. People, I feel like it's few and far between where just a random person just walks in off the street, not knowing anything about Warhammer or anyone who plays it or anything, and just walks in and decides to start. Like, I don't think
mm,
that's usually like it's like a friend or someone gets you into it, right?
exactly. Yeah. You know, somebody that's been playing it, you've been checking out the local game shop, you've been doing your research. I have heard of people off the street that just want to get into a new game and it catches their eye and they get into it.
Yeah,
But like I said, chances 9 times out of 10, you knew a guy that played and then you
right.
hopefully did your research before jumping in. And
Right. So for me, what happened is, and this is like the first go at it in
mm,
like eighth edition. This is the first time I walk into Games Workshop and buy the Thousand Suns, right? So I buy
yeah.
the stuff and we're driving home and we're talking about it. I was like, okay, so like, what? Give me the scoop here. You know what I mean? Like, where am I at with things and everything? And he's like, okay, well, normal competitive play is like 2,000 points. And I said, okay, so how many points is this? And he's like, I don't know. I don't play Thousand Suns. Like, I'm going to say somewhere between like 200 to 300 points, like something like that. It was like 10 Rubric Marines. Even right now,
Yeah.
off the top of my head, I don't know what they are now in ninth. I would say probably somewhere around like 250 or something. But
Mm.
um, they or 200, I don't know, they're probably like 20 to 23 points a model or something. But so then you're like, okay, so let's think like basic math, right?
Mm.
So let's say this is 250 and this thing costs $70, and I like the ultimate goal is to play a 2,000 point game. So you do the math, 70 times 8, like there's the intimidation right there for new
It,
players.
it it is, and like especially like this day and age, like for somebody to like I find the resell market as far as models is it's tricky because as a player you put your time, you put your effort, you put your money into these armies, and you go try to resell it. And obviously nobody wants to sell their armies for next to nothing, unless like yourself, like you're gonna find those deals, one in a million, somebody just getting out of it. But again, like myself, like I remember being like, this guy's like, oh man, it's like I'm selling this army for $700, and you're like, you throw up a little bit in your mouth.
Hmm.
But then you break it down, you're like, but man, that's like 15, $1,600
Yep.
worth of models. Like I'm saving half the price. So yes,
Yep.
like it's that dollar sign is the intimidating part,
Hmm.
especially for
Yeah.
a lot of people. Like if you have money in the bank and you don't care, whatever, go for it. But like
Yeah.
yourself, like myself, like, hey, I'm married, I have kids, I can't go and just drop like hundreds of dollars into something. Even though in the back of my head, I'm like, that is a pretty good deal. But still, yeah.
Yeah. It really is plastic crack.
Oh man.
Um, yeah, so that was basically so my first army was Eldar Drakari,
Nice.
and
So almost like a Yanari mix essentially. You threw in Cat Lady and the Incarn,
I
but
never I never went down Yunari. I never did
uh,
that. My list developed into Dark Reapers, Fire Prisms. I still to this day the Eldar heavy vehicle aesthetic, the ships, the tanks, like I love it. I love the way
yeah.
they look. They are so awesome. If you have an airbrush, like those things are just gonna pop. Like they're gonna look so good. My biggest thing that got me out of Eldar was just I wanted to learn the combat phase, and they just aside from shining spears, I mean, I just didn't really feel like I was getting it. You know what I
Oh, it's
mean?
true, yeah. Because I guess Shining Spears, you would have your, well, if you're sticking just with Eldar, you got your Howling Banshees,
The aspect
your
markers
Wraith
are
Blades. Like
so
you
like
have options, but they're nothing compared to like if you go to like a heavy combat army. Yeah.
right, right. So another army that really spoke to me a lot was Space Wolves, but I never bought in for a while because the idea of painting flesh and pelts was too intimidating for me to go down that
Okay.
road. I thought I would just butcher it, right? So I did the Elder. I got painting and I brushed it up a little bit and everything. And I had a cool list. We started doing tournaments and stuff, and I actually ended up like top tabling with this Elder list, which I had a very bad experience the first time I ever top tabled. The guy, God, I don't even. Should I go down this road? I don't know if I should go
You
down
know
this
what? Yeah,
road.
because
It's
to be
like,
honest, like everybody's going to have a situation where they get to a situation, at least a sour taste in their mouth. And I've seen people quit altogether and just leave the game altogether. But
yeah,
if
I
I'm sure,
lost.
but I'm sure if people hear these type of stories and be like, but look, losing at the end of the day, I've lost many tournaments, top table, this and that. But like, yeah, you kind of get a little down on yourself. But no, you rework your list, you work it up, and you go from there. So go for it. Tell me your story. This is what this is all about.
Tell you my tale. Okay, so the first ins the okay, how should I? Where do I begin? The whole tournament was fine. Everyone was. I got really lucky against a Blood Angels player. I seized on him, and he was like fully committed with his Death Company,
Mm.
and I had two Hemlocks, and his Death Company went poof. Before they even got to do anything, which was, the guy was pretty much like on his heels, and I was able to just sort of clean that game up. But
Nice.
it was like Rangers. The list I was running was like Rangers, Bike Casters, Shining Spears, Triple Fire Prisms, and I think I had like two Crimson Hunters and a Hemlock or something like that.
Okay.
And to be honest, I didn't even realize it was like I wasn't a competitive player. I just bought stuff that I thought was cool,
Mm.
right? And it turns out that like that was actually like a super competitive Eldar build, but it just whatever. So I get to the final table and it's this Demons Thousand Suns player. Um, so he has his buddy there, and his buddy was just talking to me like the whole time, right? Like I'm trying to play like
Okay.
the final
Distracting.
table,
Yeah.
just distracting me, right? So and then the shady, really shady stuff started happening. So I go to my psychic phase, I cast Smite, I get an 11. The guy's busy talking to his friend and then denies that I rolled that.
Oh no. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, he just, oh, I didn't see it. I said, well, I don't care. You did whatever. Anyway,
Yeah.
so me, I've always kind of taken this approach where it's just like, I mean, it's a game. You're supposed to have fun, whatever. So if
Mhm.
it means the world to this guy and he's going to lose it, this is like the first, like, okay, whatever. He didn't see it.
Mm.
I'll re-roll it. Doesn't matter. So it ends up being just like a normal smite, whatever. It does
Yeah.
like one mortal wound versus like, a
D3.
potential, whatever. Yeah, like, it doesn't matter. And then the next turn comes, he's shooting at me, right? So
Mm.
there's lightning fast reactions. The stratagem specifically says when declared the target of a shooting attack, pop this stratagem.
Yeah.
Guy has his dice in his hand. He goes, I'm attacking your Hemlock, and rolls the dice. I say, okay, well, I'd like to pop lightning fast to
Yeah.
give it the extra minus hit. Oh, well, I already rolled the dice. You're supposed to say it before I rolled the dice. And
Okay.
I was like, okay, you literally had the dice in your hand. I had like a millisecond to say anything.
Mm.
He's like, well, not my problem. He's trying to fight me on this, right? So at this
Okay.
point, I call the TO over. I say, look, this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you can do that, right?
Mm.
Um, and this sort of stuff proceeds to go on. Every time he's doing things, he's measuring out movements and stuff. His buddy's sitting there talking to me, and then every time I got this great roll,
I didn't
he's
see it.
oh, I didn't see it, yeah. And then there was something else. It was like the final straw. There was some like that close combat thing that happened, and him and I were just like, I don't know how he was feeling, but like I was definitely getting worked up, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I had texted my buddy, and I was like, "Oh, I'm at the final game here." Blah, blah, blah. So he ended up showing up to the shop, and he just like, I tell him what's going on. He was like, "Dude," he's like, "just have fun, just play the game, whatever. If
Mm.
this guy goes home tonight feeling good because he cheated and like socially engineered this situation to win the game or whatever, like, who cares, right?" So I go on and play the game. I end up losing by like 1 point. And like
Oh
it's like
no.
one of those things where it's like, yeah, of course, I spent the whole drive home thinking about like all the instances
Mm.
that like he like sabotaged my gameplay, right?
Yeah.
And then I find out at the very end of it that's just a raffle prize, anyways. So it didn't matter if he came first, second, third, anything. But the weird
Okay.
part is he won that too. He came first in the tournament, and then he won the raffle
Okay.
prize. And like the whole. I never went back there for a tournament. That was good enough for me. Like
Mm.
the whole thing just kind of seemed like they were very specific about what table we played on at the end and stuff like that. And
Oh really? Okay.
I
Like
just
I
kind of
mean,
had this.
I can understand like a finals table if you're streaming or something like that. But I mean,
It was an
yeah,
RPG
like
with old people.
okay, yeah. The way you're explaining it, yeah, it's yeah.
Well, I'd never been there. Everyone knew everyone
Mm.
there. I was just a nobody who just randomly showed up at this tournament and top tabled it, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel maybe I'm wearing a tinfoil hat right now. I don't know, but like
No,
the
I mean, hey, like
specifically the opponent, the way he acted, I don't believe is like no the whole idea of sportsmanship that I grew up on. Like
mm.
by no stretch of the imagination did this person have any understanding of that concept whatsoever. So
It is sad to say that in the world of Warhammer is you're going to get the people that is 110% to that. They want to have a good time, you want to have a good game, but you are going to have those players that it's like if I don't win, screw you guys. And yeah, I've had my
yeah,
fair share of those over the years. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't have I've the farther you get in tournaments, the more particular I get about like if you've moved on to a next phase, like the last phase is done, kind of stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like the game to play out how it's supposed to. I like the dice to be rolled,
Mm.
and the game to be dictated by like decisions, not like this stuff. You
Not
know,
because you're a
not
little pissy pants.
yeah, exactly. So
No, and I mean, I 100% get you. And like I said, for the listeners right now, it's like, I honestly hate to say this, especially if you are a new player, is you are going to encounter these type of people. But don't let that take away from the good people in the community. Out of the 10 people you're playing, you're going to get one piss hat, but you're going to get nine guys that are going to make you love the game that much more because you're just having that much of a good time.
you
And
know what
like
you do
that's,
with the
I
piss
just want to make
hats? You beat them anyways.
exactly just rub it in.
Just get them. Just get good enough to beat them anyways.
Mm.
So yeah, that was my worst experience, and that was the first time I top tabled. So I think since then, some things have happened. Either I've been lucky or anything, because I've won some tournaments since
Mm.
then, and I just never encountered stuff like that yet. And I think it starts with you,
Mm.
like like you set the tone of the game when you go up and you address people. I think the one thing I learned from that is like just state your expectations right off the
Mhm.
beginning. You know, if you're like for me, I'm not super. If you forget to cast a psychic spell or whatever, and you're on the shooting phase, like it just happened. Okay, cast a spell. I don't care. End of turn
Exactly.
3, you forgot to bring a deep strike, and you realize it. Just bring the deep strike in. I don't care. But like the only thing that bothers me is like I like concise movements. You know what I mean? Like I like to
Mhm.
see like good movement, like just tight playing. You know,
Yeah,
that's a simple way to put it. I'm
and
not going to be a dick
especially
about anything, but
and
just be
especially in a
tight.
tournament scene, that's what you want. You wanna have fun, but in retrospect, like you're still there to win. You want, like you said, a nice tight game. You want to be played right. And like I said, everybody's gonna forget something. And if you're gonna be that one guy to be like, well, no, you can't do that. It's going to come around and bite you in the ass because obviously nobody's perfect. You're going to forget something. And that's what I keep in the back of my head. It's like you said, you forgot a psychic power. It's like, you know what, at the end of the day, go for it. If you missed it 2 turns ago, hey, I'm sorry. But no, go for it. Because like I said, I'm going to probably forget something. And then with the hopes of you allowing me to do the same thing back. So yeah.
Yeah. A good question I've learned to ask opponents like that guy I described earlier
Mm.
is this how you want to win? Right? Because
Exactly. Yeah.
I feel like the question just says it all. I know what you're doing. Is this really how you want to win? You don't
Yeah,
want to win because you played well, because you made the right. You want to win because you decided to be. You're an asshole. If this is how
exactly.
you want to win, just tell me now. I'll go to the bar
Mm,
an hour early.
exactly. It's like
Right.
it's wasting my time. And that's why like when I play in a tournament and it's kind of like something I've managed to get myself in a nice routine is when I'm doing something, a lot of times I will state I'm moving this unit because I want to be this many inches here
Yeah. Oh
to
yeah.
do this. Do you agree? And the second they say yes, all right, go into my
Yeah.
next movement. Just because the second you get that validation, because I've actually had that happen to me, being like, I'm moving these guys. I want to make sure they're within rapid fire range. So I'm getting them within 12. Do you agree? Yeah, sure. And then I go to it, be like, well, you're 12 and a half.
Yeah.
And that's when you kind
Yeah.
of just you bite your tongue. Like,
Hmm.
okay. And so yeah. So like I said, I'm not saying this to the new players to be like quit now because you're gonna just be dealing with a bunch of asses. But like no, it's you are going to encounter it. Yes. Are you gonna be able to play with a lot of better people? Hell yeah. And that's
Yeah.
what you need to look forward to is those nice games that just make you love the game so much more.
Yeah. Like you said, intent makes a big difference, right? Like, you have a unit that can shoot, like you said, 12 inches, move six.
Mm,
How far away are you before you even touch the model? How far away
hmm
are you? Right?
Exactly.
If you're within 18 inches, you should be able to do all of it, right?
Exactly.
So,
But so as yourself a player, so like I said, you just you mostly jumped in eighth edition, kind of go all in. So
oh
now,
yeah.
as everybody knows, this weekend, ninth edition, the big release, and the last couple of podcasts, that's been the big talk for us.
Oh
So
yeah.
as a one-on-one talk, what is it that you're looking forward to now with this new edition? You have a whole edition under your belt for the most part.
Hmm.
What, with the changes that you have seen, read, and even watching bat reps, that are you looking forward to right now?
Um, I think first off, I feel like list diversification is going to be a big thing. I don't think you're going to see uh, Marine lists with 15 Centurions or these sorts of things, right? I mean, the
Hmm.
point hike and everything kind of stopped that anyways, but now there's a smaller board. Shooting's just as important as melee. There's shooting lanes are massive right now, and you definitely can't
Hmm.
afford to have an entire table hedge of guns because there's a good chance 60 to 70% of them won't even be able to shoot
Hmm.
first turn or second turn, depending on how mobile they are,
Yeah.
right? For myself, I've ended up at White Scars once the supplement dropped. White Scars is what I ended up playing. And I've dabbled with other stuff. I have Space Wolves, I have Emperor's Children, I have Grey Knights, I have a good list of stuff. World Eaters, like yourself.
Nice.
And White Scars is the army that I feel like I kind of got shafted on. Because right when their supplements dropped, a week later, all these cool bike options got
Mm, it,
legendified.
yes.
Yes. So it was kind of like, okay, I guess I'm just doing like a jump pack sort of thing. So now, fast forward to ninth, new rules, new point changes and everything, new bikes,
Mm,
Invader ATVs. A lot of stuff is feeling really White Scars right now. So that's something I'm looking forward to, and I'm looking forward to not having to fully commit to just being a melee army,
hmm
and I think other people are being forced to commit to not being just a shooting army.
mm,
So I think that's one of the big things. Just like the game feels different. You don't have to be so committed to killing as much as possible turn one and turn two. I'm really excited to see what they do with Forge World. There's been a lot of rumors around about like reworking Relic and Forge World units and stuff like that, and I feel like they have been some of the more oppressive units towards the end of eighth.
hmm
um, I know everyone went all gung ho about Chaplain Dreads, but a lot of the guys I've talked to actually said that the Chaplain Dread was the least favorite part of their list.
Okay.
Um, but like the Leviathan, for example,
Oh,
or
Leviathan
Whirlwind
Dreadnought. Yeah.
Scorpius, like a lot of the SM guilty parties are Forge World units. So
Hmm
I think a cool theory I heard someone say was a point for point relic tax. So if you bring a
Okay.
350 point Leviathan in a heavy support slot, you need to bring 350 points of other heavy supports, which I think would reel that in a bit, right?
Okay.
You can't just do like a relic contemptor and a servitor squad to
Yeah.
to like balance it out, right?
No. Okay.
But I think also the new nines changes really force. I think you have to know everything you're going to be doing and what you think your opponent's going to be doing before you even start moving models at the beginning of your phase. Because that's just going to dictate everything. You want to move block, you want to get objectives, hold more. I think the game is just going to be so movement based, which seems really cool to me. Like, terrain seems more interactive. I think they've done a great job with the new terrain rules. It's a
Definitely.
lot at first. It's a lot to digest. I'm still trying to you
I'm
know,
on my fourth read through now
yeah,
just to make sure because I know Mini Wargame Act just released a video with all the big terrain changes, like with the understandings. Like I highly recommend for anybody to listen to this if you need to know a little bit more about terrain. Because like I said, I'm on my fourth read through now and I'm still picking little things out. But if you guys check out that Mini Wargaming video, the Matt does a real good job on breaking everything down, and he simplifies it because he's like, there's four major steps at the beginning of each thing, but in each step there's going to be multiple things. But when you think it could be overwhelming, but then he plays out the scenarios where like four of those things could happen at once and be like, oh, okay, well that's really not bad. So yeah.
yeah. The terrain seems really cool.
Mm,
The new lookouts rule
mm.
makes a lot of sense. I don't know, man. It's hard to pinpoint one specific thing for
So
nine.
it sounded like an overall, like you're just happy with the overall changes. Like it seems like it's just going to be that much more of an immersed game. The things that were important are even more important now. And like you were saying, the main thing now, it's like before people would play just to kill everything on the other board, but like that's not going to always earn you those secondary objectives. And
That won't win
I
games.
enjoy the fact that they brought in the whole essentially ITC side of it because GW realized like, hey, people like playing this. So like I've been reading through the secondaries. So I'm like, oh man, like I can get in this. Like I'm building my list now, not just around what's going to kill everything. It's like, no, what's going to catch me these objectives? What's going to get me to your back lines? What's going to allow me to do this? And it's just, oh, like I am pumped myself for this.
Yeah, it's awesome. It seems like they have definitely observed eighth towards the end and gotten people involved in their team that have said, hey, you know what, you should care about
Mm,
competitive and try to make it this balanced, fun experience because for every new player who's doing narrative, there's probably a competitive player who spent 10 times as much on the hobby trying to
mm,
just like stay competitive, right? And I feel like there was sort of a whole thing towards the end of eighth that people people are saying GW just doesn't care about competitive and let ITC have it or
mm.
whatever. And I mean, it's fine, but at the same time, it's like chapter approved 2019 was a bit of a head scratcher. There were some things that
And that's why everybody still refers to eighth being that kind of beta. It's like they were listening, they were looking, and I think that's why, in my opinion, ninth is going to be a lot of fun because they started picking those things that people have been saying. So like this whole entire time when everybody thought GW wasn't listening, they weren't doing nothing. They didn't care. It's like no, I honestly think they were listening, and I'm hoping that nine will reflect this.
yeah seems promising so far.
Okay, so pretty much we're at the 45-minute mark now. So pretty much I just want to say a big thank you to Kier for joining us on here, letting us find out a little bit more about yourself. You guys definitely are going to be hearing a lot more from Kier. Like I said, he is part of the Boulders and Heretics gaming team. So this is a little segment that I'm going to be trying to do at least once every 3 to 4 weeks. I'm going to be starting off with each of the members here. And after that, I'm definitely going to be reaching out to a lot of the members in the community, a lot of the TOs, a lot of the organizers, just for everybody to kind of get a nice understanding on the people in the community. If you have questions, like these are people that you can reach out to and just ask them questions and ask them anything about the scenarios that you have encountered. And I'm sure they'd be able to be more than happy to help you out and guide you down the right path. Because like Kier said, it's like his tournament. It was a really like not a very pleasant scenario, but like if you ever want to ask him, be like, hey, well, how did you manage to get by this? Like maybe you might be in the exact same spot. Like, but no, that's the roundabout about this. Like I said, just get to know the people in the community, get to know what's going on, and yeah, just end of the day, have a good time, just have fun with it. So a big thank you to you, Kier, and we'll be hearing from you very soon on the next episodes.
Thanks for having me, Danny.
Have a good night, everybody.